Hey guys, it's Tad Robin here. I'm a registered nurse here in Alberta, Canada, and I'm also a licensed life insurance and investments advisor for more than 5 years now. So today, I will just be doing a public service to those who are coming over or coming to Canada and would like to know what do they need to know or what do they need to get or what do they need to do the moment when they come in Canada. First and foremost, when you arrive, you should get an SIN. So what is SIN? SIN stands for Social Insurance Number. So it's a unique 9-digit number given to you by the government, and you can get that when you arrive at the airport after the immigration process. And if it's within the work hours or business hours, 8 to 5 p.m., you can actually get it at the airport. So if you are, let's say, arrive after or before the business hours, you can actually just go to a Service Canada Center and get that SIN. So what do you need to get that SIN? First and foremost, you need your passport. Alright, so you have to show your passport and then your immigration papers. Immigration papers would be like your work permit or your student permit or your permanent resident document. Okay, so it only takes about 15 minutes to get an SIN. So just make sure that you have the proper documents with you because they'll be asking for those, alright? So what does the SIN do for a Canadian? First, you need an SIN to work in Canada. And I'll explain that in a little while, okay? SIN is for work and for opening a bank account. Canada is very meticulous when somebody opens with a bank account because they're very peculiar with money laundering. So they have a lot of laws when it comes to money laundering. So you would need to show your SIN so they can identify you, and of course your passport. All right, and then the next thing that you would need if you don't have your own mode of transportation, which means like your own car or your family has their own car here in Canada or your friend's car. If you don't have those, you would need a travel card, as we call it, travel card, which is like a prepaid card that lets you board a bus without using cash. You just tap it and it lets you ride the bus. You don't have to. I mean, you're still paying for that card. This is a prepaid card. So it's used for riding a bus or taking the train. So that's very important because transportation to one point to another is very important here in Canada, especially during the winter time. So you make sure that you have your own card if you don't have your own car yet. And then the other thing is a Canadian bank account. A Canadian bank account is very important when you're looking for a job, and I'll explain that again later. So there are a few let's say famous or more popular ones here in Canada, and it can be TD or CIBC or Scotiabank. Yeah, so those banks. But before you open a bank account with any of these banks, go drive around or go look around or ask around among your friends or relatives and ask which one has the most benefits. Like some of these banks would offer even a free iPad when you open an account with them, or they would have unlimited transactions or even cashback and stuff like that. So ask around before you even start opening an account with them. And then another one would be a Canadian cell phone plan. Oh, by the way, when you are opening a bank account, you would need to show your SIN. There you go. So you need your SIN and your passport in order for you to open a bank account. Alright? Either your passport or a government issued ID aside from your SIN, like a driver's license. But of course, if you just newly arrived, that won't be your priority, right? Getting a driver's license. But your passport is very handy, of course, and your SIN. And then another important tip is to get a Canadian phone plan. Of course, when you've applied for a job, you'll be expecting them to call you back. So you need a phone plan. So a phone plan with a good internet coverage or internet plan is very important, and you can get a good plan from a few more popular companies here, namely Telus, Fido, or Rogers. There are smaller telephone service providers here, but which would cost less. But then of course you want a really good coverage, especially when it's winter time and you're out there and you got stuck and you need to call 911 or a towing service or something like, or your friends or family, and then because it's you're in the middle of a snowstorm, you don't want a cheap internet or phone service, because you would be needing your phone service to call for help, right? So ask around your friends which phone service company actually has a really good coverage and a really good service plan, of course. Like, you don't want to be paying too much, especially if you just arrived in Canada. $60 a month is, I would say, fair amount of would provide you a fair amount of coverage and internet service, right? And then of course another thing that I would say is you go and ask around, especially in downtown. There would be government centers or government offices that would provide you information about Canadian culture, how to find a job, the tax system. It's very important that you know all of this when you arrive in Canada, because of course you'll be immersed in the Canadian culture, the Canadian tax system, and you want to be working to provide for your family and for yourself too, right? And then the next thing is knowing about housing programs here in Canada. There are different kinds of housing programs or systems in Canada. Namely, like you can rent your friend's basement, or you can get an apartment, live in a condo, townhouse, or even get a detached house. So look around and ask around, and you can actually find a lot of information on Kijiji, on Facebook pages like buy and sell and rent or something like that. Just ask around, and then hopefully you find a really good housing for you and your family, right? And then the next thing is finding work. So as I've said, the SIN is very important, because to find work or to get work or a job, you need your SIN, you need your bank account, right? So when you're filling out an application form, usually they will ask there your SIN number, and if you landed as an immigrant or a permanent resident or work permit and stuff like that. So don't you have to remember the date that you arrived in Canada. That's usually asking a lot of questions, even in insurance application forms. And then of course your SIN. With the SIN, you don't have to bring your SIN every time. If you got a card with your SIN on the card, or a document like a simple one printed paper, you don't have to bring that when you're applying. You don't have to show that. Just have it memorized or type it in your phone, but make sure nobody accesses that. Because when you're applying for work, they would need your SIN and a bank account. A bank account, they need a bank account because of course they want to know how to pay you, right? So, and it's also a form of, because with a bank account, there's a thing here in Canada called credit score, and I'll explain that in one of my next videos. Credit score is very important here in Canada. So when you're applying to get your own place, like your own house, or get a vehicle, you need a good credit score. Okay, and I'll give you some tips when I make that video. And then of course you have to also do your own research about Canada's culture, history, and places to visit. So basically, just enjoy Canada. You stay here in Canada if you're on a work permit or a student visa, or you're staying here for good as a permanent resident. Enjoy your stay here. Of course, Canadians are generally, like I would say, I've been here for like 10 years now. Canadians are generally very, very friendly, and they're very open to different cultures, and they're very respectful. They're always saying sorry, and they apologize for that, pardon me. They're very, 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 very respectful. I love Canadians. I'm proud to say that I love Canadians. So enjoy your stay here. And also, one more thing you need to get when you're right in Canada is, and especially when you get work, is to get a life insurance plan. And that's where I come in. I'm a life insurance and investments advisor for more than 5 years, as I've said in my intro. And the reason why I'm suggesting that you get a life insurance is, of course, you want to start life insurance plan when you are young, because you'll be paying much less. Because the older you get, the more premium you pay, or the monthly premium that you pay for the same coverage. So you want to start at a young age and get a really good coverage, especially when you're planning to buy your own place. You want to secure that income is there if the unfortunate happens with you, right? So if you have any questions, you can call me, you can message me, or put a comment down here below, or you can message me on my Facebook page, which is Robin Tolentino Financial Advisor. Just look for my name, or just on Facebook, Robin Tolentino. You can send me a message and I will get back to you, right? Alright guys, thank you for watching, and I hope you stay safe out there, and be happy, stay positive guys. Bye!